Hello and welcome to the Sociology Show podcast. This episode is all about globalization's impact on the UK. Before we get stuck into that, though, a quick message for you. The podcast now offers online tutoring. So if you are interested and you would like to book a lesson, whether that's just a 1 hour session, hour and a half, 2 hours, whether you just want a single session, a couple of sessions, or if you want to put some block bookings in, whatever you are interested in booking, then you can do so via the Calendly website. So if you are interested in some online tutoring, then please do visit www.calendly.com/sociology show tutoring. And that's Calendly, CALENDLY.com/sociology show tutoring. So this episode is a student special. So I had a message from a student called Naomi Hoffman, who goes to Colchester Sixth Form College, and she sent me a file and said that she's recorded something on globalization's impact on the UK, asked me to take a listen, and I was so impressed with it. It was so well researched and so well thought out. I said to Naomi that I would put the episode out for her. So whichever topic or area you are studying, globalization is going to come up. It's one of those synoptic areas, synoptic topics. Globalization comes up in education. It comes up in crime. It comes up in media. It's one of those terms that covers all different aspects and areas of sociology. So a really, really important term to understand. If you are interested in doing something for the Sociology Show podcast, then all you need to do is record an MP3 file, send it to me. So my email address is thesociologyshowpodcast@gmail.com. I'll take a listen and I can put out an episode for you, just like Naomi did. So without further ado, let's go over to the podcast. Thank you very much, Naomi Hoffman from Colchester Sixth Form College.
Okay, so today I'll be discussing whether globalisation benefits all countries. When we talk about globalisation in A-level sociology, I feel like it's very focused on the effects it has in the UK and countries in the global north, but not so much countries in the global south, like India, China, the continents of South America and Africa. And I feel like it's very important to know about the effects it has on them too, as many of the resources for trade and technology we wouldn't have without the global south. In this podcast, I'll talk about globalisation's impact on the UK and how it affects countries in the global south. I'll relate these to the topics of education and families, as well as evaluating them with different sociologist perspectives. The definition of globalisation is the world becoming increasingly interconnected via technology, travel and trade. Globalisation obviously has its positives and negatives for most countries, but some parts of the world experience the negative consequences far more. Most simply put, countries in the global north benefit the most from globalisation, whilst countries in the south suffer the most from globalisation. So first we'll talk about education. So technology is used to share ideas across nations, such as US charter schools influencing the creation of UK academies. Technology is also used to give opportunities for remote learning, such as being widely used in the COVID-19 pandemic. According to NPR.org, cobalt is used for smartphones, computers, batteries and electrical vehicles. However, this involves extremely dangerous labour for just a few dollars a day by exploiting people and children. In 2021, the DRC produced approximately 74% of the world's cobalt. Also, Mitchell and Brown argues that industries like steel, iron, mining and engineering have moved abroad as labour is cheaper there. So this is another example of that, and led to the decline in traditional male jobs in the UK, especially for working class men, and it has led to an identity crisis for young males in education. So this also shows how there's negative impacts in people in the UK, as well as from countries in the global south. Marxists would highlight that this is an example of workers becoming isolated from their work and exploiting the poor by making companies and CEOs richer. So the companies and CEOs are making the most money by paying the workers the least amount of money. While technology may be useful for countries to spread ideas and for communication, the same technology only exists through exploitation of people in the global south. This highlights how countries, both from the global north and south, can suffer from this. Okay, so now on to families. So there's been an increase of nannies from poor countries. An extract from the book Global Women, Nannies, Maids and Sex Workers in the New Economy by Barbara Ehrenreich and Ali Russell Hochschild, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, states that women from poor developing countries are migrating to developed nations to work as maids and nannies to raise other people's children, but not able to raise their children back in their home countries. Poverty pushes these women to leave their home countries. So this has led to a flow of female labour when women from global south countries migrate to do quote-unquote women's work in the north. This is partially because there's been an increase of female breadwinners in the global north, so both parents are busy at work and don't have time to look after their children, so they need a nanny to look after their children. Also, countries like the US do not offer public childcare for working mothers, so this is another reason why nannies from the Global South come to work for families in the Global North. Whereas upper-class UK families benefit from purchasing these nannies, the nannies have to change their whole lives and move all across the globe and abandon their children to do so. So different feminists would argue that this highlights that women are heterogeneous and not every woman experiences the same difficulties. So if you're a woman from the Global South and you're working class and you're a marginalised ethnicity in the UK, then you're going to be more oppressed and suffer more compared to upper-class white British families. Globalisation has also led to an increase of trade, so therefore an increase of overconsumption, especially from the Global North. Marxist Zaretsky highlights how families act as an important market for the sale of consumer goods, and capitalists can easily profit off them and sell products of workers for more than they pay them. So I guess, like for example, miners in Congo, that's an example of that. Adverts like Keep Up with the Joneses highlight the pressure to consume the latest products and keep up with the latest trends. As well as this, pester power from children pressure their parents into buying them products, so they're obviously influenced by the media to get more toys as they believe that these toys will bring them happiness. However, the Global South suffer immensely from this, not only from working in sweatshops, but also the consequences of buying all these products. The Centre for International Environmental Law says that 80% of toys end up in landfills, incinerators, or oceans, and account for almost 6% of landfill plastics. Businesswaste.co.uk highlights that across the world each year there's 92 million tonnes of textiles waste, and this is responsible for 10% of greenhouse gases. The cost of living crisis has also influenced families and people to buy clothes from fast fashion brands as they're cheaper and they can get more of them for a cheaper amount. So these are brands like H&M, Shein, Primark, and so on. However, countries from the Global South, although not the ones that are over-consuming, usually face the results of this overconsumption and this waste of textiles and products that is purchased. Countries from the Global South experience the effects of climate change the most. For example, countries like Kenya. According to Greenpeace, second-hand clothes are given to poorer countries like Kenya. The clothes that are imported are usually poor quality, and this also shows how countries from the Global South have to deal with the consequences of fast fashion. In 2019, Kenya imported 185,000 tonnes of second-hand clothes, and 30 to 40% of it having no value. 55,500 to 74,000 tonnes was textiles waste, and about 150 to 200 tonnes of this waste ends up being dumped, burnt, or sent to overflowing dump sites like Dandora. So this is also a feature of climate colonialism, which is the exploitation of resources and power by Global North countries when dealing with climate change. So like Global North countries usually abuse their positions of power and wealth and dump their products such as overflowing waste of textiles to Global South countries and export their solutions abroad rather than trying to fix their ways of pollution. This demonstrates how families in the Global North now have access and more choice to buy products that keep in with the latest trends and material objects like toys to fulfill their interests of their children. However, the Global South suffer immensely from the consequences of this overconsumption, which leads to excess waste which is exported to Global South countries, creating more pollution and damage to those nations. Marxists will be critical of this, as not only fast fashion companies are creating unethical places of work, but they clearly don't care about the impact this has on the environment around them. They care most about the profits and getting the most money by selling these clothes for cheap, and when no one wants them, landfill sites will give them to countries in the Global South, which is also quite patronising to the people in the Global South and makes it seem as they are below the Global North because they're getting the remains that they don't want. In conclusion, globalisation has many benefits towards the UK, like more migration, so a better economy, as there's more carers, more domestic jobs, more people working for the NHS, and there's also an increase in technology. But the very things that we benefit from come from places of abuse and exploitation in which Global South countries suffer from. So not all countries benefit from globalisation. And maybe we should think next time the things that we have, the mature things that we have in our homes, where they're originally from and if they're from places of ethical work backgrounds. Thank you for listening.
Sociology Show podcast relies on the kind contributions of sponsorship and donations. If you enjoy the show, then you can help with the hosting costs by donating as little as £5 on the GoFundMe page. Simply visit uk.gofundme.com and search for The Sociology Show. If you can donate, then you will be sent a Sociology Show pen as a small thank you for your continued support of the show.